Lee, and I'd like to welcome you to our session on the Ready Child. And I'm here with my colleague, Colle, from the Office of Early Learning. I'm with REL Southeast, and again, it's been a pleasure to be a part of this event today. And we're just so excited that you all are here, and we're thankful to you for all the work that you do every day in the job and the role that you are in. And thank you for sharing your time with us today. So we've had a great morning. So this afternoon, in this breakout session, we are going to talk a little bit about characteristics of a ready child. And then I'm the facilitator of this session. So I'll be talking just a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to turn it over to Hope to share with you this afternoon. This is just our disclaimer. This slide basically says, again, we can share with you at REL Southeast, but we can't tell you what to do. Hope is with the Office of Early Learning, and they do have requirements, and they can tell you what to do. But we can. So I want to share a little bit with you about this infographic. And you saw the poster outside next to our room. One of the roles I have at REL Southeast is I do lead a group. It's a nationwide group that's focused on school readiness. So we have representatives from different regional education laboratories across the country. We have quarterly calls together, and a couple of things that we're charged with doing is actually creating products or engaging in projects for non-REL audiences, such as y'all. And then we actually are charged with producing some things for our REL-only audience. This is one of the projects that we, as we talked, we thought about what can we do, again, we're talking nationwide, that might be helpful in regard to school readiness. And so we thought about the fact that when we talk about school readiness, we're not just talking about the child, but we're also talking about the ready school, the ready family, the ready community as well. So we developed an overarching infographic that had those elements, and then we produced some infographics that were pertinent to each one of those areas. And this one has to do with the ready child. And we thought about the characteristics of a ready child. And some of those characteristics then we delved more deeply, and we thought about resources that might be helpful. The resources we identified are not specific to Florida, because remember, these are accessible throughout our nation. And so the requirements and the resources that we have in Florida may or may not be available throughout the country. But we know these are the important things, or at least some of the important things when we talk about a ready child. It's certainly that they need to have a physical health, and they need to be physically able and have an emotional well-being. So that's a characteristic of a ready child. And so there are some resources there, and Dr. Foreman alluded to the fact that the resources in the infographic are hot links. And so you can just click on those resources. They come from reputable places such as NACE and other research institutions. So those are there. And then displays a general knowledge, language, and numeracy and literacy kind of background. And so that's also important to our children in being ready for schools. And then also the development of confidence and curiosity, so that when they enter school that they're excited about learning. And so again, there are resources related to all of these different categories. They're directly underneath those headings, and they are links that will lead you to those resources. We'll provide you this PowerPoint, will be sent to all of you. The way you can find the infographics, there'll be a link to them individually, but also if you just Google REL, R-E-L, infographics, you'll see there'll be a REL site that comes up, and if you scroll down to early childhood, all of the infographics are there, and so they're accessible that way as well. And so we're hopeful that these resources could be really helpful to folks in our state and then throughout the country. And we try to gear them towards more of a general audience, so not just for educators, not just for families, but for all of those that have concern about early childhood education and preparing a child to be ready for kindergarten. Okay? This is our agenda this afternoon. Just going to provide that introduction, and Hope is going to conduct our session for the most part. An introduction to the early learning and developmental standards, birth to kindergarten, and then tell you about some professional development opportunities, talk about transition to kindergarten and a preschool network, and then provide you with some resources as well. Would like to share before Hope comes up and shares with you this afternoon. Hope and I have been colleagues for a number of years in different capacities. We both worked with the Just Read Florida office at the Florida Department of Education for a number of years together. She's had over 32 years of experience in the early childhood world. She taught kindergarten, she's also been a preschool teacher, and now she works at the Office of Early Learning in that arena as well. And so I know that you'll learn a great deal from her. And so, Hope, let's turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Laurie. And thank you all for being here to hear a little bit about what the Department of the Office of Early Learning is part of the Department of Education. And we have initiatives that we've been charged with through legislation that will impact and do impact the things that occur in your schools and in your centers. And so we're very happy to be here today with the REL and in Hillsborough County. I was telling some of my friends I love Hillsborough. It's always exciting to come here, mainly because you guys have it going on. You really do. So in the preschool world, give yourself a pat on the back, right? So thank you again for being here with us. So we are going to talk about a couple of initiatives. The first being our Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. Back in 2017, the State Board of Education approved the newly revised and updated Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards, birth to kindergarten. And those standards are, we had a research group that came together, a focus group that helped develop those standards. Using the foundation of the old standards, they were able to revise and tweak and modify and add to and delete standards in order for them to be most effective for children. The goal is to have those 4-year-olds ready when they go to kindergarten. So we want to provide them the things that help them obtain the things they need to be able to learn and do when they get to kindergarten. So we're working really hard to make your life a little easier. How many of you are kindergarten teachers or elementary folks? Okay, how about private providers, coalition folks? Okay, so one. Okay, well, thank you. So, our goal, is it not? Our goal is to make sure when those children come to the public school that they're ready. And for us, being ready is when children are capable of doing the things that a typical 4-year-old should be able to do. So our standards, again, were developed by that team and research-based. They're very comprehensive. There are 8 domains within the standards, and those domains cover all aspects. We're going to look at those of what children should know and be able to do. They are from birth to kindergarten, and then of course we also have, within that birth to kindergarten, we have the 4-year-old standards to kindergarten. So they're the same standards, but they're published separately. One set for school readiness, because school readiness serves children birth to kindergarten, whereas Bbk only serves 4-year-olds to kindergarten. So in order to meet legislative requirements, they are published separately, but one and the same. Does that make sense? And now my hands hurt. Sorry. All right, so these are the 8 domains. They're physical development, which you all, for the most part, they're very self-explanatory. Social and emotional development, language and literacy, math and science, social studies, creativity, creation, creative expression through the arts. But the one I wanted to mention that we often neglect is that approaches to learning. Are children being creative when they're playing? Are they exploring? Are they looking for new opportunities to do something that they haven't done before? Are they challenged? Are they planning their play? When they're in the block corner, are they looking at the blocks and thinking about how that bridge is going to be constructed? So those are the kinds of things that a teacher would look for when she's observing and looking at what children are doing in that approaches to learning area. So I wanted to explain that a little bit because that area in the public school world might not be as clearly defined as it is in our standards. So we also have educator guides that were developed to go along with the birth to kindergarten standards. And those educator guides have a wealth of information in them. They are posted on, you've seen them, huh?
They're awesome.
Aren't they great?
Yes.
And I can't believe I did not bring a copy with me. I just can't believe that. But anyway, they have everything an early childhood educator would need to implement the standards outside of the actual curriculum. There's an explanation of each domain and what that domain would look like, what parents can do to support that domain. There are expectations, what children how a child would demonstrate that they've mastered that skill, or what a teacher would look for if she wants to observe a child and what that child would be doing. What parents can do to help encourage the development of particular skills. So there's just all kinds of information embedded in that educator guide. There's how to use the standards, what to do with diverse learners. You've got, in Hillsborough County, you all have a variety of learners, both ELL and ESE children, children with special needs, whatever the case may be, those are addressed within that educator's guide. So again, a reminder, this is what the Office of Early Learning. This is what the Office of Early Learning is doing to help support children before they come to your public school. So, because our goal, once again, is to make sure children are ready when they get to you. And can I get an amen?
Well, I have communications for ELC, and we actually distributed to our provider network copies of those. So.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
A copy,
so they have
a copy to a hard, nicely bound copy was sent to every ELC to then distribute to every provider. So if a school is serving school readiness and Bbk, they got two. They got the full set and they got the smaller set. So then they are also able to purchase additional copies. We have an online ordering system where they can order additional copies, so thank you for bringing that up. There's environmental considerations. What kinds of things do teachers need to change in their environment? Or what kinds of things need to be provided in an environment in order to encourage a certain skill to be developed. And then again, the offer to order online, and they're very reasonable. It's like less than $25 for the big copy in a notebook, printed, nice paper, the whole 9 yards. So this is I wanted to give you just a quick little sampling of how the standards are broken down. So we do have the domain, which is physical development in this particular case. So the domain is one of those 8 areas that we would be addressing. And then there's a component that we've broken that domain down to health and well-being. And even a little deeper than that, active physical play. What is this child doing to demonstrate active physical play? So then you'll see it says 8 months to 18 months. Not only do we break down the standards by domain, but they're also broken down on what is appropriate for 0 to 8 months, 8 months to 18 months, 18 to, I don't know what it is, 24. So, you know, it just goes on and on until they get to those 4-year-old standards. And then there's a small description of what that component contains, and then the standard, and in most cases there are benchmarks. There are, on occasion, no benchmark, it's just the standard. So we have a standards website, which we were going to try to walk you through a little bit. Is this the pointer? But on the standards web, when you go to the Office of Early Learning, Florida Office of Early Learning website, the purple tab at the top will always be there. And so you can get back to the home page when you click on one of those purple tabs. From the home page, you would click on on parents. This is the fastest way to get to the standards. Click on parents, and the Florida Developmental Standards are the very first tab in the drop-down menu for parents, because we want parents as engaged in these standards as the children and the teachers. When you click on that link, it'll take you to this page, and from this page there's just, again, a wealth of information. There's you can dive into what the standards are all about. You can view each standard individually. You can look at a domain, and it'll filter according to age, according to domain, and you can print out just those standards that are available. Is all this new to y'all? Am I telling you stuff you already know? Yes, no? No. So all those are just a wealth of information there on that standards page. So on the standards tab, you can click again and look at each domain and the standards based on age to get there. There are concepts across the standards, so you can cross a standard from one age group to the next, so that you can see how that progression rolls out through the child's growth. There's resources for families, things that families should be doing and can be doing at home and to support their schools. And then there's a resource page where the standards books, you can print those. There's crosswalks available. We have, I think that might be the next tab. We have crosswalks that were created specifically to help teachers look at the standards for younger children, as well as what the expectations are going to be ahead of them. So you can guide your instruction based on where your children are in that developmental progress. So we worked with the Head Start office to align to their standards. We also have worked with our counterparts within the DOE and the curriculum office to align to the kindergarten standards, and we're expanding that so that there will be one massive crosswalk from birth to 3rd grade. So we're really elaborating that, and you would be able to see a standard starting at birth and moving all the way to 3rd grade, and how a child would progress with that. And again, that is so if you see this child is in kindergarten that they're performing maybe in the 3-year-old range on a particular standard, you can identify some things that you can do to support them and help move them forward. So any questions on the standards?
Do you anticipate, Hope, with the change in the standards in elementary, that you would then have that kind of domino effect of your standards in early learning also changing?
We are holding our breath in hopes that the changes will be minor. And I say that because we just finished this process, like maybe 6 months ago, where everything is finally wrapping up and looking clean, and we can like breathe a big sigh of relief because the project is wrapped up. So to start all that over is a little terrifying, but we would do it, of course, if that's the case. If there are major revisions to the kindergarten to 12 standards, we definitely would revisit that. Or it might be something as simple as tweaking some language here and there to better align. So yes, it's on our radar if that would be needed. Any other questions about the standards? Well, please visit the website. There are documents all through that website. I did bring a couple. I wasn't sure how many folks were going to be here. This is the birth to kindergarten crosswalk, or through kindergarten. So it aligns the standards with those kindergarten standards. I have about 30 copies, but this is on the website. It's about 35 pages long, and that you can see how it starts at birth and goes through the kindergarten standards. So especially if you're a kindergarten teacher, this might be something you want to grab. Feel free to come up and grab one when we're done. So another thing that the Office of Early Learning is doing, what I feel like is a really super job of helping teachers prepare children to be ready for kindergarten, is professional development. We have, for BPK, we have 7 regions. Only 6 are filled right now. We have 1 facilitator vacancy, but we have 6 facilitators out working every day with providers in the field. So mostly private providers, but they do work across into public schools. So we are very happy about that, and we want to collaborate with public schools as much as possible. But these folks are a great resource for you to tap into. Marianne Goodrich is your regional facilitator. Marianne is amazing, and she will come to your school. She will work with your teacher. She provides professional development on the standards. She will coach your teachers. She will look at data with you. Anything you need, they are trained to do. We have, I can't even tell you, probably 30 trainings that they can provide for you on math, on literacy, on the data analysis, the Bbk Assessment, all those things. So these are our regional facilitators for BPK, and then we have 5 additional facilitators that serve school readiness. Now, the BPK facilitators do often target those providers that have been identified as a low-performing provider. So, because their goal is to help raise the quality of instruction at those centers, and then the school readiness targets all providers. So we really feel like we've got a driven focus and are moving forward on increasing what teachers know and can deliver in their classrooms. Yes,
Sorry, just to add a piece about Marianne Goodrich, she's on the pre-K transition team, so she is working with Lisa Black and people from your district, just in case. She's very easily accessible and wants to work.
She's fabulous.
Yeah.
And she's going to retire one day, so soak in the knowledge from her that you can now, because she's amazing. So this is the Department of Children and Families website, where all of early learning educators are, their information and their certification, their courses that they've taken and passed, because there is an assessment at the end of those courses. They show up on their certificate, on their transcript, and that is how they are continue to be qualified to be an educator in the early childhood world. So the Department of Children and Families hosts that for our office, for the BPK and school readiness trainings. They also have additional trainings that are available. So many times they have things on health and safety, how to better serve children and where to put the sink and that kind of thing. So there's really nice resources and trainings there for them as well. So now, this is our transition to kindergarten initiative that began about 2 years ago. We pulled together a team from all over the state. Some of you are familiar with that because you helped us. But we collaborated with a variety of people to identify some needs within that transition to kindergarten initiative. So we collaborated with coalitions, with school districts and teachers, business owners. The REL was part of that, community leaders, stakeholders such as public libraries, Title I, Head Start. All those people were part of that focus group in the Transition to Kindergarten initiative. And the goal of that focus group was knowing that children who have a smooth transition, children who are prepared to move into that kindergarten setting, have better success in kindergarten. Their gains are better. They have less stress when they go to kindergarten. Their emotional state is better. So their social and emotional competence, how they get along with their friends, how they're going to deal with an unsure situation, all those things are better and smoother for those children when that transition has been created and is smooth. And then most importantly, the academic growth and family involvement is also increased and improved. And that's very exciting that we see that children continue to grow academically and are better prepared to enter that kindergarten world. This makes me think, every time I read this slide, I think about the year that the little boy came into my classroom. I think his name was Stephen, and he came in the very first day of school and he crawled under my desk and he didn't come out for a week. He stayed under there every day, under the desk. He came out for lunch and PE, and that was it, and to go home, of course. But he did not want to interact with any other children. He didn't want to interact with me, and I just kind of let him figure it out. But I had not been trained on how to pull him out from under the desk. I did the best I could, and eventually he did. But those are the kinds of stresses that we want to avoid with children, to not put them in a situation where they feel they need to go hide. So this Transition to Kindergarten initiative is a goal to help solve those problems. So the focus group, much like what the REL is focusing on, we targeted ready communities, ready schools, ready families, and ready children. Those were our main focuses that were part of our focus group, our action plan. And then through that, we identified 6 areas that we wanted to target within that action plan. So to develop a statewide communication plan with tools and resources for the local level. So our Transition to K focus group is in the process of developing these 6 steps. To encourage collaboration at the local level, we want to provide you with resources that support and advocate data sharing, both from across the entire state. So if a child leaves your district and goes to another district, what happens to their data? In the early childhood world, we want to solve that problem. We want for you to be able to share and promote tools to assist families with transition. So what are some things you need at your fingertips that you can use to help families transition? Some of these are already addressed and provided on our Transition to K website, so you can access those there. But we also want to share and promote assistance to providers, and what can providers and school districts do to help with that transition. And then lastly, to encourage the development of skills and measures in social and emotional learning. So those are the 6 targets for our transition to kindergarten focus group, and we are excited about those activities. Are there any questions pertaining to this initiative? So beyond that, we have our focus group, and then we also have held some regional summits. And those regional summits have occurred around the state. We've had some in the Panhandle all the way to Miami, and I'm not sure if we've had one in Hillsborough, but we are hosting a few more this year, so maybe we can get to Hillsborough County. But the purpose of these summits is to give you that opportunity to plan on how you would address these 6 targets. So what do you already have in place? What are some best practices that are occurring today in Hillsborough County that fall into those 6 categories? And what are some barriers that might be in your way in being successful with that and supporting families and children? So that's what those summits are about. Excuse me. From those summits, we have been able to identify some best practices through the transition process. So holding family events. One district had events at every location they could find. Shopping malls, parks, the skating rink. So anywhere children were, this organization, the school district or the Early Learning Coalition, planned some events at that location. Finding that parent that's going to be a champion for your school that will help bring other families in the community and encourage those families to participate in activities at the school. So I know we have a low-performing school in Leon County, and they don't have a PTA organization or any kind of parent organization. And the Rotary stepped in. A very good friend of mine took the lead, said, I'm bringing the Rotary. We're coming to Bond Elementary, and we're going to make some changes. And they just stepped right in, helping teachers. They, bringing snacks and things for the teachers. They delivered coffee and donuts to the teachers, and the teachers were crying. That's how deprived the staff and the school is. And to me, it's heart-wrenching. But she is that champion for that school. And so finding that parent that can help champion the initiatives at your schools. Preschool and kindergarten teachers reading the same books. Children feel comforted when they come into a kindergarten classroom and they see a book that their preschool teacher brings them, and they're like, oh, I know that. So it's supporting those children in those transitions. Love letters to the kindergarten teachers. So these aren't love letters from the children. These are love letters from the teachers of the children to the kindergarten teachers. So Johnny is a great student. He loves to play in the block corner, but sometimes you have to kind of coax him out to come to the books or tips on how you can better serve particular children. Field trips to the local elementary school. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you do that. You bring children in from those feeder centers that come to your schools. But providing opportunities for them to explore the media center, the cafeteria, where the bus ramp is, what a kindergarten classroom really looks like. So those are great things. Data sharing agreements. A lot of districts have created some documents that they can collect data on children if it's agreed upon between the private providers and the school districts and of course the parents. So that is in the works already. Our goal is to have a system where all that data goes in and it follows the child wherever they go. That is the goal. And library partnerships, that's also a fabulous resource. I saw Ready Freddy shirts floating around Hillsborough County, so I don't need to tell you about Ready Freddy, but that is an awesome program as well. Yes, ma'am.
I might just add something. As I was reading through those best practices you were highlighting, it occurred to me that many of those things cost no money.
You're absolutely right.
It's, reading the same books in preschool and kindergarten, no money. Finding that champion for a particular school, $0. So many things that can be done that don't require huge investments of funds.
And it really is often just thinking outside our box. We so often have, this is how we've always done it. You've heard the story about the ham, and the mama was cutting the end of the ham off and putting it in the oven, and her daughter said, "Why do you cut the end of the ham off?" And she said, "Well, your grandma always cut the end of the ham off." So she goes to grandma, "Why do you cut the end of the ham off?" "It was on the rack that fitted in the pan." So, it was always, we don't think outside the box. So doing those kinds of things that we habitually do because we've always done it that way is not necessarily the best way for us to continue. So we do have a Transition to Kindergarten website. Again, there's a wealth of information there. And there's also links to these resources that are really fabulous. The Attendance Works. I know we heard about attendance and how critical it is for children to be in school and how at risk children are who are not in school. So this Attendance Works website has some supporting evidence of that you could share with parents, that you can definitely share with educators, strategies to use to help pull children back into school, to motivate parents to drive their children to school or get them there somehow. I know transportation, if they miss the bus, then sometimes they're just out of luck, but hopefully you can get some good tips there. We've talked about Ready Freddy and then the Head Start transition as well. And now, last thing I want to talk with you about is the Preschool Network. And this is kind of near and dear to my heart because I've been able to get in on the ground floor of the Preschool Network. But our goal with this network is to bring all those important parties that deal with children in the preschool world together. So we have divided our state into 5 regions. We had a statewide collection of applications from all educators, Head Start, Title I, private providers, public school teachers, anybody and everybody that wanted to be part of the Preschool Network was welcomed. And we accepted every application. We have about 130 members on the statewide network. And the purpose of those applications was to ensure that within each region, we had a variety of representation. So we wanted to make sure we had someone from the community, someone from the district, someone from a private program, a well-rounded group of people. And we recently held our West Central regional meeting right here actually we were in Pinellas at the ELC, but we had several Hillsborough folks there, so I was happy to see that. And we identified through the initial focus group, we identified these 10, we used to call them building blocks, now they're preschool quality indicators. And these 10 indicators are the things that we feel are most critical to the success of children in the preschool world. So, safe and healthy program practices. Feel like that's important for a child to feel safe and for the environment to be healthy. So what are we doing to make sure that that is the case? In our regional meetings, we had lots of conversation about trauma and children who have been exposed to very sad and traumatic experiences, as well as teachers, the educators that have been exposed to trauma. So that was a very hot topic. We also talked about education, training, and support. I feel like we're doing a really good job in that area, but we've also discussed things that we can do to improve the quality of training that teachers receive, how we can increase the quality of professional development that's being delivered, and how we can get teachers to come to those professional developments. We talked about comprehensive early learning standards and curricula. So along with that, I want to say that we just had our curriculum adoption for VPK and school readiness, and I'm happy to announce that the VPK part is over. So that's a big celebration on my part, but so that those identified curriculum are most aligned to the new standards. We also talked about group size and ratio, making sure that students are in a group that is suitable for the best learning to occur. We discussed classroom environment and interactions, and you all have heard about class and that initiative that's going forward. So that will help guide some decisions that are being made in the early learning world. Support for diverse learners was discussed, assessment of children's progress, comprehensive program assessments. Is the program meeting the needs of those children? Family engagement and community relations. So all 10 of these building blocks were addressed at our regional preschool network meetings. And each network then identified their top 3 out of these 10. And those top 3 are what they will now hone in on and really focus on what's going to occur in their region. So lastly, just a few resources. I feel like that's what I've given you, a lot of information and the resources that are available to you. But on the OEL website, again, there's a family resource page, and there's also this room activity. Actually, it's an application that you can load on your phone. Then you enter the child's information, their age, their sex, or gender, and then each day as a parent, this is a great parent resource. As a parent, every day you get an activity to do with your child. So this is something every parent has a phone, right? Do you know? I mean, pretty much every parent has a phone, and they can download this app for free and then get information on what they can be doing with their children at home. I think that's a fabulous resource. There's also the First Teacher booklets that are available for print on the OEL website, and that is a birth to 4-year-old booklet, and they're individualized, so infant, toddler, and then preschool age children. So it addresses the standards and what children should know and be ready to do at those particular ages, what parents can look for. So again, that's a fabulous resource to help parents, and something that can be handed out very easily. So as a wrap up, we have our Office of Early Learning webpage, and again, Laurie's going to send you this PowerPoint so you'll have all these links. We have the developmental standards, which you can definitely access. Preschool inclusion and infant toddler networks. The inclusion and infant toddler networks are the early learning children, and then the DCF training management system and Transition K website. All of those, again, are initiatives that the Office of Early Learning is moving forward with to help support children to be more ready when they come to you in your public school setting. So we wanted you to know that that's our mission as well as yours. We want to support you in any way we can. So I guess any questions pertaining to what the Office of Early Learning is doing? We're good? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned at the beginning, or maybe you mentioned, I'm sorry, a data system.
Yes.
Can you talk about
Yes,
that?
I can.
Okay.
I've shared a little bit of information that I know.
Okay.
But the Office of Early Learning just received a federal grant, the Preschool Development Grant. It was $8.6 million, and that money is going to be used for a variety of purposes, for professional development, for family engagement. We're doing a statewide assessment, a reflective assessment, developing a strategic plan, and developing some, I think it's already in the works, a system that will collect all that data for children or of children to then be tracked and provided to public schools. It would give them that information up to that point where the child reaches public school. So that is a brand new system, and that is about the little bit of information that I have that I can share. But it is in the works, and those things have to be completed by the end of December 2019. So it's a quick turnaround, so I know they're already working on it. There's also additional funds that will go to early learning coalitions as quality dollars to then help support more school readiness initiatives and those kinds of things. So good stuff going on, and we're excited about that. Yes, sir.
You mentioned there were 10 preschool quality indicators, and one of them was the assessment of the child progress. What tool is being used to
Well,
gauge that?
right now we use the Bbk assessment, which is a pre and a post. So what a child knows when they begin BPK, and then what a child knows at the end of BPK. And then as public school teachers, you all, kindergarten teachers, administer the flickers the first 30 days of kindergarten. So we have those two data points, what the child knew at the beginning of BPK, what they know at the end, and then what they've carried into their kindergarten experience. So those are some data
Has
points.
there been a clear definition in terms of looking at those tests and what you guys would feel kindergarten ready?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to answer that. Because I'm being honest, that's the data world, and I live in the program world. So, but I do know there's often, a lot of reflection on that data. I know phonological awareness and vocabulary have been a very weak area that was revealed to us through the Bbk assessment, and for that reason, we are training our regional facilitators yesterday and today on a brand new face-to-face training that will be delivered to any provider that would like to take it. It is also available online, but we use that data to help drive some of the work that comes into our office. So, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just want to, I'm Colle. I work for Champions for Children and Program Director for Baby Bungalows. So we have developmental playgroups, but our programming is for children and their caregivers 0 to 5, although the majority of the children in those playgroups are 30 months and younger. So this notion of kindergarten readiness is a very hot topic for us. From a parental standpoint, you get this notion of academic pushdown and this really kind of flashcard-like, and not literally flashcard, but you know, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, color, shapes, numbers, as opposed to the relational talk with me baby, talk, read, sing, about how can children, you know, self-regulate, identifying. All those things are important, but it looks very different when I'm working with a group of 6-month-olds and their parents than I am with 4.5-year-olds. So I think, and like the question early this morning, after the keynote, you know, how do you define readiness? And there isn't a single definition because it varies by age, by group, and your intention. And so I'm seeking a way, a group, some peers for that conversation for the kids that we're not even talking about preschool readiness or Bbk readiness, though I know all of these things relate to readiness. And we are focusing again on relational things and a play-based group. But it gets really hard to convince a parent who is concerned about a preschool entry exam and is taking their child to occupational therapy because they can't yet write their uppercase and lowercase numbers when they're 3-year-old. You're like, whoa. And I'm not saying that is what we're suggesting.
That's not our message.
No. And I understand that, but we are lacking the littles of the littles. And when we're talking about the first 1,000 days, in terms of brain development and synaptic connections, you know, those are central.
And I have to say, I'm a grandma. I've got a 6-month-old, an 18-month-old, and a 3.5-year-old grandchild. All boys, by the way, and absolutely adorable. But it is so exciting for me to see their development and their progress. You know, when you're a young mom, you don't even remember what was happening when your children were little because you're so crazy busy. But as a grandma, you really get to enjoy it. So I can totally relate with you and that ability to communicate and be more clear with parents and understanding that this is a developmental thing. That's why our standards are those 8 domains, because a child playing in the block corner being curious about how to stack the blocks without them falling down is just as important as them being able to write their name or identify their name when they go to kindergarten. You know, there are some skills that every child won't be able to do, but there are some skills that the typical child is able to do. And I think that that's where it gets squishy.
Well, and not unlike Jane Murphy's comment about, you know, disconnect from technology to be in the moment, not recording the moment. And so technology, like we get kids that they're not good players. They don't have opportunity to sit and be with themselves and create. You know, they're provided things or they're taken somewhere. They don't create their own play space.
We appreciate your comments and again, your questions, and thanks so much for being here. We're so glad that you hope for sharing what your state is doing to support